The distress signal cut through the darkness of space like a knife through silk. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of the UNSC Defiant, her hands gripped behind her back, watching the holographic display flicker with the dying words of another civilization. The transmission was old, 3 days, maybe 4, which in galactic terms meant they were already too late. "Play it again," she said quietly. Lieutenant Marcus Hayes tapped the control panel. The air filled with static, then a voice, broken, desperate, speaking in the universal trade language that most spacefaring species had adopted. "This is Korathi Prime. Under attack. They came from nowhere. Our shields. Nothing stops them. 12 billion souls. Please, anyone. They're called the Velkara. They don't negotiate. They don't take prisoners. They just consume." The transmission ended in a scream that made even the veteran crew members flinch. Chen had heard 17 similar messages in the past 6 months. 17 worlds, 17 civilizations reduced to silence. The pattern was always the same: a sudden attack, overwhelming force, then nothing but empty planets stripped of all organic matter. "Captain," said Hayes, his dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the holodisplay, "we're receiving telemetry from the Etherian Scout Network. They've confirmed it. Korathi Prime is gone. Gone." Such a small word for the death of billions. Chen turned to face her bridge crew. 23 men and women representing 8 different Earth nations, all watching her with the same question in their eyes. "Are we next?" "How far are we from the Velkara's last known position?" she asked. Hayes consulted his readouts. 4 light years, ma'am. "But their trajectory—" He paused, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Admiral, if they maintain their current course, they're heading straight for the Terran colonies. New Haven specifically. New Haven. Population 4 million humans. Mostly families, children." Chen felt the weight of command settle heavier on her shoulders. The Defiant was just one ship. A Dreadnought-class warship, yes, the pride of the United Nations Space Command, but still just one ship. Against an enemy that had devoured 17 worlds. "Ma'am," said Commander Sarah Park, the tactical officer, her Korean accent sharp with urgency, "we should fall back to Earth, warn the Council. Let them mobilize the fleet. It was the sensible choice." "The smart choice. How long would that take?" Chen asked. Park's silence was answer enough. By the time the fleet mobilized, New Haven would be a graveyard. "Navigation," Chen said, her voice carrying across the bridge with the authority of someone who had made impossible decisions before. "Set course for the Velkara trajectory. Maximum burn, ma'am." Hayes stepped forward. "We don't have backup. We don't even know what we're facing." Chen met his eyes. "We know they kill. We know they're heading for our people. That's enough." She turned back to the viewport where the stars stretched into lines as the Defiant's engines roared to life. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness, something was hunting. Something that had shattered every species that stood against it. But those species hadn't been human. "All hands. Battle stations," Chen announced over the shipwide comm. "This is not a drill. We are potentially engaging a hostile force responsible for multiple xenocide events. I won't lie to you, we're probably outgunned. We're definitely outnumbered. But 4 million people are counting on us to buy them time." She paused, letting her next words carry the weight of her conviction. "I know what I'm asking. I know what we're flying into. But I also know this crew. I know what humans do when our backs are against the wall. We don't run. We don't surrender. We fight. And if we're going down, we're taking as many of those bastards with us as we can." A moment of silence. Then Hayes spoke up, his voice steady. "Weapons systems online, Admiral. All railguns loaded. Missile tubes primed. We're ready." Around the bridge, heads nodded. Jaws set, eyes hardened. "Good," Chen said. "Because in about 6 hours we're going to find out if humanity deserves its place among the stars." The Defiant plunged deeper into the void, racing toward an enemy that had never known defeat, but they had never met humanity before. In the crew quarters, Private First Class James Chen, no relation to the Admiral, sat on his bunk, staring at the small photograph of his daughter. She was 7, gap-toothed smile, pigtails. She lived on New Haven with her mother. His squad mate, Corporal Maria Santos, noticed his expression. "She'll be fine, Jimmy," Maria said softly. "We'll stop these things." James looked up at her. Maria was from Manila, tough as recycled steel, with 3 combat tours under her belt. If she was scared, she didn't show it. You really believe that? He asked. Maria checked her pulse rifle, the familiar mechanical click somehow comforting. I believe we're going to die trying. That's enough. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka watched the reactor readouts with growing concern. They were pushing the engines beyond recommended limits. The Defiant was old. 20 years of service, 3 refits, countless battles. She was tough, but she wasn't invincible. Come on, girl, Yuki whispered in Japanese, patting the bulkhead. One more fight. That's all I'm asking. The ship shuddered slightly as if in response. In the medical bay, Dr. Amara Okonkwo prepared for casualties. She'd been a trauma surgeon in Lagos before joining the Space Command. She'd seen plenty of blood, plenty of death, but never on the scale that the Velkara brought. She caught her reflection in the polished steel of a surgical tray. Her dark skin seemed almost gray in the harsh lighting. When had she started looking so old? Doctor? Her assistant, a young ensign named Liu, interrupted her thoughts. Should we prepare the emergency triage protocols? Amara looked at the empty beds, the sterile equipment, the atmosphere of controlled calm. In a few hours, this place might be a scene from hell. Prepare everything, she said, and pray we don't need it. On the bridge, Admiral Chen watched the countdown timer tick down. 5 hours until intercept. She thought about her own family, safe on Earth. Her son, a teacher. Her ex-husband, retired. They'd be watching the news, probably, waiting for word. She wondered what that word would be. Admiral, Hayes said suddenly. We're receiving a transmission. It's from the Etherian High Command. The Etherians were one of the oldest races in the galaxy, wise and ancient, with technology that made human innovations look like stone tools. They'd lost 2 worlds to the Velkara, put it through. The hollow display shimmered and a figure appeared, tall, crystalline, with eyes that glowed like captured stars. Ambassador Velshan, the Etherian liaison to humanity. Admiral Chen, the ambassador's voice resonated like wind chimes. We have detected your vessel's trajectory. You are pursuing the Velkara. That's correct, Ambassador. Then you are pursuing death. There was no malice in the words, only sad certainty. We have studied these creatures for months. They are unlike anything the galaxy has seen. Their ships are biological constructs, regenerating faster than we can damage them. Their weapons tear through shields as if they were paper. Their numbers are incomprehensible. Chen's expression didn't change. Are you telling me to turn back? I am telling you that 17 civilizations, some far more advanced than humanity, have tried to stop them. All have failed, then we'll be the first to succeed. Velshan was silent for a moment, those luminous eyes studying her. Your species is very young, Admiral. You have been in space for less than a century. You do not understand what you face. Maybe not, Chen admitted, but we understand what happens if we don't try. 4 million humans are in their path. I won't abandon them. Even though you cannot save them, I can buy them time to evacuate. That's something. Another pause. Then Velshan's form seemed to shift, colors rippling across the crystalline surface. There is a reason the Etherians have survived for 1 million years, Admiral. We learned when to fight and when to flee. Pride is a luxury of the young. With respect, Ambassador, we're not doing this out of pride. We're doing it because it's right. Right. The words seemed to perplex the ancient being. The Velkara do not care about right and wrong. They care only about consumption. Then we'll teach them about consequences. Velshan's image flickered. I hope you survive to learn wisdom, Admiral Chen, but I fear you will only learn the taste of defeat. The transmission ended. Hayes let out a breath he'd been holding. That was encouraging. He's scared, Chen said quietly. His whole species is scared. They've never encountered something they couldn't understand or outrun. She turned to face her crew. But fear doesn't mean we give up. It means we fight smarter. Admiral, Park called out, sensor readings. We're picking up debris fields ahead. Lots of them. The hollow display shifted, showing a vast expanse of wreckage, ships, stations. The remains of the Korathi defense fleet. How many vessels? Chen asked. Park's fingers flew across her console. Counting. Over 300 confirmed wrecks. These were military ships, Admiral. Battle cruisers, destroyers, fighters, all destroyed. 300 ships. The Korathi had made a stand. They'd lost. Any survivors? Scanning. Negative. No life signs. No active power signatures, nothing. Chen studied the debris field, noting the pattern of destruction. The Karathi ships hadn't just been destroyed. They'd been shredded, torn apart with savage efficiency. "Look at the damage patterns," she said, pointing to the display. "See how the hull breaches radiate outward? Whatever hit these ships didn't just pierce the armor, it made it explode from the inside." "Molecular disruptors," suggested Park, "or some kind of matter phase weapon." "Maybe." Chen's mind raced. Tactical scenarios flowing through her years of experience. Or maybe something we haven't seen before. Mark the debris field. "We'll analyze the wreckage if we survive this. If." The word hung in the air. 3 hours to intercept," Hayes announced. Chen nodded slowly. 3 hours. 3 hours to come up with a plan to stop an unstoppable force, no pressure. "All right, people," she said, her voice cutting through the tension. "We're not going in blind. What do we know? What can we use?" Commander Park brought up the compiled intelligence. "Based on 17 attacks, we know they travel in swarms. Smallest recorded force was 50 vessels. Largest was over 300. Their ships vary in size from fighter analogs to capital ships roughly twice the size of the Defiant. Weapons? Multiple types. Energy beams that bypass conventional shielding. Projectiles that phase through solid matter. And something," Park hesitated, "something that survivors describe as anti-life radiation. Exposure causes cellular breakdown within seconds." "Lovely," muttered Hayes. "Their tactics?" Chen pressed, overwhelming force. "They don't maneuver much, just come straight in, absorb whatever damage you can deal and steamroll through defenses. After the battle, they land on the planet and begin harvesting all biological matter. Plants, animals, people, everything. But they leave the planets intact?" "Yes, ma'am. They don't destroy worlds, they strip them clean and move on." Chen paced, her mind working. There had to be a weakness. Everything had a weakness. "They come straight in, you said? No fancy tactics?" "None observed. Because they've never needed them," Chen realized. "They're so strong that subtlety is irrelevant." She smiled grimly. "That's their weakness," Hayes frowned. "Ma'am? They're predictable. They've been winning so easily that they've never had to adapt. They've never faced an enemy that could hurt them enough to make them think." "With respect, Admiral," Park said carefully. "We're one ship. The Karathi had 300. How are we supposed to hurt them when they couldn't?" Chen turned to face the viewport, watching the stars slip by. "By being unpredictable. By doing what they don't expect. By being human." She spun back to her crew. "Here's what we're going to do." The Velkara swarm emerged from the darkness like a nightmare given form. "Contact." Park's voice cracked across the bridge. Multiple signatures counting 30, 50, 75 vessels. Range 2 million kilometers and closing. Admiral Chen stood at the center of the bridge, her hands resting on the tactical display table, watching the red dots multiply across the holographic map. Each dot represented death. Each dot represented a ship that could probably destroy the Defiant single-handedly. There were 93 of them. "Visual," she ordered. The main viewport flickered, magnifying the distant contacts. What Chen saw made her blood run cold. The Velkara ships weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were organic, living things, massive creatures that swam through the void like sharks through water. Their bodies were covered in chitinous armor that seemed to ripple and shift, colors flowing across the surface in hypnotic patterns. Tentacles trailed behind them some kilometers long, and along their flanks bioluminescent organs pulsed with sickly green light. "My God," Hayes whispered. "They're beautiful." "Beautiful killers," Chen corrected. She'd seen beauty before. It didn't impress her. "What's their formation?" Park studied the readouts. "No formation, ma'am. They're just swarming, moving as a loose group toward New Haven." "Wait." Her voice sharpened. "Admiral, they've detected us. Vector change. They're turning." On the display, 93 red dots began shifting trajectory toward the Defiant. "Distance to New Haven?" Chen asked calmly. 8 million kilometers, navigation reported. "And distance to the evacuation fleet?" "Civilian transports are still loading. They need at least 6 more hours, 6 hours." Chen looked at the approaching swarm. The Velkara would reach them in less than 30 minutes. "Well," she said quietly, "I guess we better make 30 minutes last 6 hours." "Admiral," Hayes said, his voice tight. "That's impossible." Chen smiled without humor. "Then I suppose we'll have to do the impossible." She raised her voice. All hands, battle stations. Helm, bring us about. I want our bow facing that swarm. Weapons, arm all forward railguns. Load nuclear-tipped missiles in tubes 1 through 8. Conventional warheads in 9 through 16. Yes, ma'am. The Defiant swung around, her massive bulk responding to the helm with surprising grace. She was old, but she'd been built for war, and war was what she was about to get. Engineering, Chen continued over the comm. I need everything you can give me. Reactors to 110%, shields to maximum. And Yuki? In the engine room, Chief Engineer Tanaka looked up at the comm speaker. Yes, Admiral? If this ship falls apart, I'm blaming you. Despite the tension, Yuki grinned. Understood, ma'am. She'll hold together. I'll make sure of it. On the bridge, Chen turned to Commander Park. Sarah, I need your best estimate. If we engage them head-on, how long do we last? Park didn't hesitate. Based on observed firepower? 90 seconds. Maybe 2 minutes if we're lucky. Not good enough. We need to be smarter. Chen pulled up the tactical display, her fingers manipulating the holographic controls. Look at their approach. They're bunched up, moving as a pack. They're not worried about us, we're just an obstacle to swat aside. Can you blame them? Hayes muttered. Chen ignored him, her mind racing through scenarios. If they're bunched up, they're vulnerable to area effect weapons. Park, what's the optimal detonation radius for a nuclear warhead against targets that size? Depends on yield, but maybe 5 kilometers for maximum effect. Good. Here's the plan. Chen zoomed in on a section of space between the Defiant and the approaching swarm. We're going to plant a minefield. Not actual mines, we don't have time. But we can use our missiles as improvised mines. Hayes caught on immediately. Program them to hang in space and detonate on proximity. Lure the Velkara through them. Exactly. They think we're weak. They think we'll try to run or fight head-on. So we'll do neither. We'll make them come to us through a kill zone of our own design. Park was already running calculations. Admiral, even if it works, it'll only slow them down. Maybe destroy a few. But 93 ships. We're not trying to win, Chen said quietly. We're trying to survive. Every minute we keep them focused on us is another minute the civilians have to evacuate. She straightened. Decision made. Execute the plan. Launch all missiles pattern Delta 4. Set them to proximity detonation 5 kilometer spread. Launching. The Defiant shuddered as 16 missiles erupted from her tubes, streaking into the darkness ahead. They spread out in a loose grid pattern, then stopped, hanging in space like deadly flowers waiting to bloom. Missiles in position, Park confirmed. Now what? Now we make them chase us. Chen leaned over the comm. All hands brace for rapid maneuvering. Helm, take us into the minefield. 1/4 speed. I want to look vulnerable. The Defiant crept forward, moving deeper into the space between her missiles and the approaching swarm. Velkara are closing, Park announced. 1 million kilometers. Admiral, they're accelerating. They're coming right for us. Chen watched the red dots grow larger on the display. She could feel her heart pounding, but her voice remained steady. Hold course, hold. 500,000 kilometers. The Velkara ships were visible now on the main viewport. Massive, terrible, and getting closer every second. Chen could see details now. The way their tentacles undulated, the pulsing of their organs, the way their armor seemed to writhe like living tissue. 200,000 kilometers. They're entering weapon range. Hold. Admiral! Hayes' voice cracked. We need to move. Hold. 100,000 kilometers. Chen could see the bioluminescent weapons ports opening along the Velkara hulls, green light building to deadly intensity. Now. Hard starboard, full burn. The Defiant pivoted, her engines roaring, throwing the ship sideways with bone-rattling force. On the viewport, the swarm rushed past their former position, charging through the space where the human warship had been, right into the minefield. Detonate, Chen ordered. 16 nuclear fireballs erupted simultaneously. Space turned white. The bridge crew shielded their eyes as the view screen automatically dimmed. Even through the filters, the light was intense. 16 suns born and dying in the span of seconds. When the glare faded, Chen leaned forward, searching the aftermath. Damage assessment, she demanded. Park stared at her sensors, disbelief coloring her voice. Direct hits on 17 vessels. 15 are destroyed. 2 are severely damaged. The rest of the swarm, she looked up. They're barely scratched, Admiral. The nukes hurt them, but most of them just tanked the explosions. Chen's jaw tightened. 15 kills. Against 93 targets, it wasn't nearly enough. But it was something. Where are they now? Regrouping. They've stopped their advance. I think we surprised them. Good, surprise was a weapon too. How long until they resume attack? Unknown. But Admiral, their formation is tighter now. They're not bunched up anymore. They're being cautious. Chen allowed herself a small smile. We hurt them. They know we're dangerous now. But we've used all our nukes, Hayes pointed out. What do we do for an encore? Chen studied the tactical display. The Velkara swarm had pulled back to a distance of 500,000 kilometers. They were circling now, like sharks that had tasted blood and were deciding whether to press the attack. 2 of the damaged Velkara ships were falling behind the swarm, wounded, vulnerable. Target the 2 damaged vessels, Chen ordered. All forward railguns. Continuous fire. Ma'am, at this range, do it. The Defiance railguns opened up, hurling magnetically accelerated tungsten slugs across the void at a significant fraction of light speed. At this distance, even with computer-assisted targeting, hitting a moving target was more luck than skill. But with enough bullets, luck evens out. The slugs tore into the damaged Velkara ships, punching through their weakened armor. One of the creatures writhed, tentacles thrashing in what might have been agony. Its bioluminescent organs flickered and died. Kill confirmed, Park announced. 1 down. The second damaged ship tried to retreat deeper into the swarm, but the Defiance guns tracked it relentlessly. Slug after slug hammered into its chitinous hull until something critical ruptured. The creature convulsed once, then went still, drifting lifelessly through space. Second kill confirmed. 17 down. 76 remaining. They're moving again, Park warned. All vessels. They're spreading out, surrounding us. Chen watched the tactical display as the red dots dispersed, forming a sphere around the Defiance position. They were learning, adapting. Not as predictable as she'd hoped. Time to New Haven? At our current position, they'd reach the planet in 5 hours, 20 minutes. 5 hours. They'd bought 40 minutes so far. Not enough. Admiral, Hayes said quietly. We can't hold them off for 5 more hours. Not like this. Chen knew he was right. They'd gotten lucky with the minefield. They wouldn't get lucky again. The Velkara were already adapting to human tactics, but she'd be damned if she'd give up. Then we changed the game, she said. Communications broadcast on all frequencies. I want them to hear this. Ma'am, open channel. The comm officer looked confused but complied. Channel open, Admiral. Chen took a breath, then spoke clearly and firmly. Velkara forces, this is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Nations Space Command warship Defiant. You have entered human-protected space without authorization. You have attacked human colonial interests. This is your only warning. Withdraw immediately or we will destroy you. Silence. The bridge crew stared at her. Admiral, Hayes said carefully. They've never communicated before. With anyone. They might not even be intelligent. Oh, they're intelligent, Chen said. You don't coordinate attacks across 17 star systems without intelligence. They just haven't needed to talk before, because everyone else ran or died. The comm crackled suddenly. Every head snapped toward the speaker. A sound emerged. Not words, not language as humans understood it. It was something else. A vibration that made teeth ache and skulls throb. It was the sound of waves crashing, of wind howling, of 1,000 voices screaming in harmony. And somehow, impossibly, Chen understood it. Prey does not threaten. The words weren't spoken. They were felt, implanted directly into the mind, bypassing ears and language centers. You are small. You are weak. You are food. Chen felt her crew's fear like a physical presence on the bridge. She saw hands trembling, faces pale. She felt the fear too. But she'd been afraid before. Fear was an old friend. We destroyed 17 of your vessels, Chen said calmly. We'll destroy 17 more. Then 17 more after that. We will make you pay in blood for every meter you advance. Another pause. Then we are Legion. We are inevitable. We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Your resistance is amusing. The word dripped with contempt, but you will die. All prey dies, maybe, Chen admitted. But we'll take a lot of you bastards with us. The presence in their minds shifted, became something almost curious. You are different from the others. They fled, they begged. You stand why? Because behind us are 4 million of our people, Chen said. And we don't abandon our people. 4 million prey. We will consume them after we consume you. You can try. A sound like laughter echoed through the mental connection. Cold, alien, utterly without mercy. We do not try. We succeed, watch. The mental presence withdrew, leaving a ringing silence. Admiral, Park said urgently. They're attacking. All vessels full speed converging on our position. 76 Velcara ships surged forward as one. A tide of living nightmares rushing toward the single human warship that dared to challenge them. Evasive maneuvers, Chen ordered. All weapons fire at will. Make every shot count. The Defiant twisted, her engines screaming as the swarm descended like a hammer toward an anvil. The second battle had begun, and this time there would be no tricks. No surprises, just violence and determination and the question of whether human stubbornness could hold back the tide of darkness. On the crew deck, Private James Chen gripped his rifle and whispered a prayer for his daughter. In engineering, Yuki Tanaka coaxed every last erg of power from the straining reactors. In medical, Dr. Okonkwo sterilized her instruments and prepared for the wounded. And on the bridge, Admiral Chen stood tall, watching death approach and refused to blink. The void erupted in violence. The Defiant's railguns hammered ceaselessly, filling space with hypersonic slugs. Point defense lasers lanced out, drawing lines of coherent light across the darkness. Missile tubes cycled and fired until the ship was surrounded by a cloud of conventional warheads seeking targets. And still the Velcara came. Impact, starboard side, Park shouted over the alarms. Shields holding at 60%. The ship shuddered as a Velcara energy beam carved across her hull. The shot didn't penetrate, but it left a glowing scar across the armor plating. Return fire, starboard batteries, Chen commanded, gripping the edge of the tactical table to keep her balance as the ship bucked and weaved. 6 railguns swiveled, tracked, and fired in unison. The slugs caught a Velcara fighter analog broadside, punching through its organic armor. The creature spasmed and died, its bioluminescent organs flickering out like dying stars. Kill confirmed, Park reported mechanically. 75 remaining. Another impact, this time from the port side. The lights on the bridge flickered. Shield integrity at 40%, the defensive systems officer called out. We can't take many more hits like that. Chen's mind raced, processing information faster than conscious thought. The Velcara were surrounding them, attacking from all angles. The Defiant was tough, but she couldn't stand against 75 attackers simultaneously. They needed to thin the herd. Helm, take us into that debris field, Chen ordered, pointing to the remains of the Karathi fleet on the tactical display. Use the wrecks as cover. Make them come at us from predictable angles. That's risky, ma'am, Hayes warned. If we hit a piece of debris at this speed, do it. The Defiant dove toward the wreckage, her bulk threading between the hulks of dead ships with barely meters to spare. Behind them, the Velcara swarm followed, their organic ships twisting and flowing through the maze of debris. But the tight quarters forced them to compress their formation. Instead of attacking from all sides, they had to approach in smaller groups. There.
Chen stabbed a finger at the display.
8 targets coming through that gap. Concentrate all fire. The Defiant's weapons spoke as one. Railguns, lasers, missiles, everything converged on the narrow channel between 2 wrecked battlecruisers. The Velcara ships couldn't dodge in time. 3 died immediately, torn apart by the concentrated barrage. 2 more were crippled, trailing biological fluids and debris. The remaining 3 broke off, retreating back into the swarm. 5 more down, Park announced. 70 remaining, but the respite was brief. The Velcara learned quickly. Instead of following the Defiant into the debris field, they began tearing through the wrecks themselves, using their energy weapons to vaporize obstacles. They're clearing a path, Hayes observed grimly. Chen watched the tactical display, her tactical mind already 3 moves ahead. The debris field had bought them maybe 2 minutes. Not enough. Engineering, she called over the comm. How are the reactors holding up? Yuki's voice came back strained. We're at 115% output, Admiral. The cores are running hot, very hot. I can maybe give you another 10 minutes at this output before we start risking a breach. 10 minutes. They'd already been fighting for 20. Give me 15, Chen said. Admiral, that's an order, Chief. A pause. Then yes, ma'am. 15 minutes. But after that, we're on borrowed time. Chen closed the comm channel and turned back to the battle. The Velkara had finished clearing their path and were surging forward again, their formation tighter now, more disciplined. Incoming transmission, the comm officer announced suddenly. It's from New Haven. Chen's blood went cold. Put it through. A woman's face appeared on the auxiliary screen. Governor Sarah Reeves, the civilian administrator of New Haven Colony. She looked terrified. Admiral Chen, Reeves said, her voice shaking. We're monitoring your battle. The evacuation, we're not going to make it in time. Even with 6 hours, we can't evacuate 4 million people. There aren't enough ships, there isn't enough time. Chen felt her crew's eyes on her, waiting for the order, waiting for her to tell them it was okay to withdraw, to fall back, to save themselves. How many can you evacuate? Chen asked quietly. Maybe half. 2 million. If we have the full 6 hours, half. 2 million saved, 2 million lost. Then you have your 6 hours, Governor, Chen said firmly. We'll give you the time. Focus on getting as many people off planet as you can. Prioritize children and families. But Admiral, we're not debating this. Chen out. She closed the channel before Reeves could protest further. Hayes looked at her, and she saw the unspoken question in his eyes. We're going to die for 2 million people we can't even save completely. Yes, Chen said, answering the question he hadn't asked. Because 2 million is better than 0. Because those are our people, and because it's the right thing to do. She turned back to the battle display. Now let's show these things what humans are made of. The Defiant fought like a cornered wolf, all teeth and fury, refusing to go down easy. She danced through the debris field, using every scrap of cover, making the Velkara pay in blood for every attack vector. Her weapons never stopped firing. Her engines never stopped burning. Her crew never stopped fighting. In the gun decks, teams worked in perfect synchronization, loading, firing, cooling, loading again. The railgun barrels glowed cherry red from continuous use. Safety protocols had been disabled. They'd worry about barrel replacements if they survived. Private James Chen and his Marine squad stood ready at the boarding stations. Pulse rifles charged, knowing that if the Velkara got through the hull, it would be down to them. Close quarters. Tooth and nail. You think we'll actually see them? Asked Corporal Santos, checking her weapon for the 12th time. I hope not, James replied honestly. If they board us, we've already lost. But if they do, then we make them regret it. In medical, the first casualties began arriving. Ensign Liu carried in a burned weapons officer. His entire left side blackened from an electrical fire. Dr. Okonkwo moved with practiced efficiency, her hands steady even as the ship shuddered around her. You're going to be fine, she told the screaming man, administering painkillers. You're going to be fine. She'd stopped counting lies she'd told. Sometimes lying was the kindest thing a doctor could do. In engineering, Yuki Tanaka watched the reactor temperatures climb into the red zone and beyond. Coolant pumps were running at maximum. Redundant systems were failing. The entire compartment was hot enough to poach eggs. Chief, one of her engineers said nervously, the containment fields are fluctuating. If we lose them, we won't, Yuki said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Reroute power.